Last time at the Red Table, Will and I shared some very private truths about our relationship.
I was building a picture. I felt that money and winning made a good relationship.
Just like any couple who's been together for close to 25 years, we went through every emotion.
There was a period where Mommy woke up and cried 45 days straight.
And one day our marriage came crashing down.
I was failing miserably.
I can't do this like this anymore. We came to the realization that we had to redefine our relationship. This is our journey to finding unconditional love.
So I want to talk about this episode of Red Table Talk Part 2. Part 1 I didn't really care for because I didn't feel like they were completely forthcoming. I felt like it was a lot of holes in the story, especially when they talked about how they got together. He said that he met Jada at his house party and they had a conversation. And after that conversation, he realized that he was married to the wrong person. That seemed kind of far-fetched, that you would realize after one conversation that your whole marriage had been a lie. I mean, what were they talking about? Apparently not the weather. But for you hopeless romantics, let's say that that was true, and we'll roll with that. Okay, and then time went on. They didn't have any more conversations, or that's supposed to have been it. But then he says that Cherie ended up asking him for a divorce. And at first he was like, no, because he didn't believe in divorce. But then she said, you're going to force someone to stay with you who doesn't love you? And then he had this aha moment and he was like, okay, no, he's not going to do that. So he was all torn up and distraught. And then he happened, with quotation marks, to have Jada's number. So he calls Jada and he asks her, are you dating anyone? And she says, no. And he says, well, you're dating somebody now. And she's like, okay. So she didn't question at all, well, what happened with your wife? Or there was no conversation about anything but just okay. And even on top of that, Jada had just bought a farm, and not to even mention that she didn't even believe in marriage, but she drops everything for this person that she had one conversation with. And then she goes on to say that we never cheated while he was married. Now, she could have said we never cheated. But when she says while he was married, adding that part on, that makes me feel like she's saying that we never had intercourse. So I don't think that they had a sexual relationship, but I do think it was more than what they said. Just listening to the story and how everything played out, that wasn't believable to me. So that was part 1. So moving on to part 2. I understand what she's saying about trying to uphold a certain image. You don't really want to let people down. She's upholding this image for him, and he's upholding an image because he wants to be perceived in a certain way. So I completely get that. Marriages do go through that. You don't really talk about the bad times. You don't really talk about the counseling and all of that. You have to really put on this facade, even though the relationship is screaming for help. And I'm not saying that you need to share this information with the world, because you don't want other people in your business, because other people, especially when you're a public figure like this, they will destroy your relationship. So you do want to keep it private, but at the same time, you have to live your life for you and not other people's expectation of you. And it's funny, the mother the whole time was completely blindsided. She was confused. She didn't know that there was any issues like that in their marriage. And this is just a prime example of what happens. You never know what type of relationship a person have behind closed doors unless they share this information with you. So a lot of times you may think you know what's going on, but it can be the total opposite. And I like when Jada talked about how she had to learn herself, because this happens, especially when you get married younger. You have to really learn yourself and learn who you are, because you can get lost in the marriage. Now, Jada and Will were two different people. They wanted two different things out of life, and this is what you have to be careful of when you're getting married. Sometimes you meet a person, and sometimes it can be lust. A really popular one is infatuation, and it can really feel like love. It will not last. You have to build a commitment. You have to be willing to work on it. Another big mistake that people make when getting married is they don't learn what a person wants out of life. It's not just about learning the person and their habits and, okay, they seem like a nice person. What do they want out of life? And am I willing to compromise? And as you can see, Jada compromised a whole lot. And this happens to women all the time. They have to give up so much of themselves until they don't even know who they are. But I really like the fact that they gave it so much. Will took a year off and really read up on marriages. So that is a lot of love. It really seemed like they want this union to work. However, unfortunately, it sounds like they do have somewhat of an open relationship. When Jada talks about swinging, she says that that is a very specific lifestyle. So this leads me to believe that they may not be swingers, but they have an open relationship. And that's just based on the things that they said in the media and throughout the conversation. Jada talks a lot about how she's not marriage material, but she is a ride or die chick. She talks about him being with somebody on the other side of the house. She states that nothing can break their friendship. I mean, they really did a lot of talking around and trying to explain their relationship without completely coming out with the fact that they have an open relationship. Not to even mention that he made a statement that when they got married, they never said forsaking all others. It's just a lot of things that they said to make me believe that they are not exclusive. But Jada did point out sometimes divorce, that is what may work for you. That may be your best option. So what it boils down to is you have to do what is best for you. I personally could not have a relationship like Will and Jada's. It seems very self-serving. Will even went as far as calling marriage a trap, trapping someone to marriage vows. None of that I agree with. And the whole analogy about two separate flowers growing two different ways, I don't agree with that. I think the best marriage advice is to learn how to compromise and grow as one and not two. I think that in real life, you would have a very hard time trying to live two separate lives. So I wouldn't take this advice to heart. I wouldn't make this a paradigm. This is just what happened to work for them. FYI, people with money, okay? People that have enough money to send you to the other side of the house and I don't have to see you for days. So don't take this to heart. This is what works for them. Make sure you do what works for you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.